So far, our products controller is working correctly. It can retrieve products, create new products, updating existing products, delete products, validate incoming data, and use AutoMapper to convert between entities and DTOs. But there is still one architectural problem. The controller is doing too much. Right now, the controller is responsible for handling HTTP requests, talking directly to the entity framework core, saving data to the database, and mapping objects. For a small demo, this is acceptable, but in real production application, this becomes harder to maintain. In this part, we are going to introduce a service layer. The goal of the service layer is to move to the first to create a new folder called services. This folder will contain the classes responsible for application logic. Inside it, I will also create an interfaces folder. This is where we will define contracts for our services. The reason we use an interface is to decouple the controller from the concrete implementation. Instead of the controller depending directly on the product services, it will depend on the iProduct service. This makes the code easier to test, easier to replace, and closer to a real-world dependency injection practices. Now we define the iProduct service interface. This interface represents the operations our product service must provide. We start with getAllProducts async, which returns all products as product DTO objects. Then we have getProductById async, which returns a single product by its ID. Note that this method returns product DTO with a question mark, meaning it can return null if the product does not exist. Next, we define createProductAsync, which accepts a createProduct DTO and returns the created product DTO. Then we define updateProductAsync, which also accepts an ID and a DTO. It returns a product DTO if the product exists, or null if it does not. Finally, deleteProductAsync returns a boolean. If the product was found and deleted, it returns true. If the product does not exist, it returns false. At this point, this interface defines what the service can do, but now how to use it, so let's see the implementation. Now we create the product service class. This class implements iProduct service, which means it must provide the methods defined in the interface. Inside the service, we inject appdb context and imapper. Appdb context gives us access to the database through entity framework core, and imapper allows us to convert between product DTO, and create product DTO. The important thing here is that the controller will no longer deal directly with the database. That responsibility now belongs to the service layer. Let's start with getAllProductsAsync. This method retrieves all products from the database using entity framework core. Because database call can take time, we use toListAsync and await the result. Once we get the list of product entities, we use AutoMapper to convert them into product DTO objects. This means the service returns data in the format expected by the API response, without exposing the database entity directly. Next, we have getProductById async. This method receives an ID and searches the database for matching product. If no product is found, we will return null. We do not return not found here because this is not the controller. The service does not know about HTTP responses. If the product exists, we map it to product DTO and return it. For createProductAsync, the service receives createProduct DTO from the controller. This DTO represents the data sent by the client. We use AutoMapper to convert the DTO into a product entity. Then we add the entity to the products table and call SaveChangesAsync to persist it in the database. After saving, entity framework core updates the product object with the generated ID. And finally, we map the saved product entity back into a product DTO and return it. For updated product async, we first retrieve the existing product from the database. This is important because we need to update a tracked entity, not create a new one. If the product does not exist, we will return null. Again, the service does not return HTTP responses. It only returns a result that the controller can understand. If the product exists, we use AutoMapper to copy the values from the DTO into the existing product entity. Then we call save changes. Entity framework core detects the updated values and generates the SQL update behind the scenes. Finally, we return the updated product as product DTO. For delete product async, we search for the product using its ID. If it does not exist, we return false. If the product exists, we remove it from the DB context and save the changes. After the deletion succeeds, we return true. Returning a boolean keeps the service simple. The controller can then decide whether false means not found or true means no content. Now we have created the service and its interface. We need to register them in the dependency injection container. So we are going to use an add scope because the service depends on app DB context, and DB context is also scoped by default. This means one instance of product service will be created per request. Now inside the controller, we remove app DB context and AutoMapper from the controller completely. The controller no longer knows how products are stored or how mapping is done. So it only depends on iProduct service. Now let's run the app, and via Swagger let's try to test all the endpoints. So we start with Swagger, we start with try it, get all the products. So we have 6 products. We can add a new one, so it's going to be a phone. Price is 900 and we have 12. Execute. So it's added with the ID 8, and now let's try it out and let's get the element with ID 8, and we got the phone we already created. And now let's update it. So we update the element 8, and let's update, let's remove the ID, and let's update the stock. Execute. So we have this, and now let's delete the element with the ID 8. Execute. The element is deleted, and when we run get all the elements again, we see that the element with ID 8 is deleted. Don't forget to subscribe. On the next tutorial we are going to work with the global exception handler.